All right. Um, well, I decided to basically dig out my fancy Italian portfolio case that I bought for $50. I have to clean it still. There's still some stuff on it, like little watermarks, but maybe I put my coffee on it one time, use it as a coaster. I shouldn't have done that, but I remember back in the late or in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003. It was for a graphic designer. It was cool or whatever. Really, the in thing to do was to burn your portfolio onto CD or DVD disc, and then send it to the employer or bring it with you to the employer. But looking back, it's kind of stupid because there could be a lot of technical issues. Maybe the employer or the potential employer's computer won't be working, or some formatting problems, technical. So obviously, I think the tried and true way is doing it the old school way and having it printed up. And I think a real graphic designer really appreciates when they can print up their work on paper. And I use photo paper for this, so it's just that, like I said, it's an Italian, I don't know, portfolio case. Cost me way too much at Dick Blick's. I remember after the DVDs, burning your portfolio onto DVDs, the big thing was getting a really big case. It was like maybe a 3-foot case by 2 foot or whatever, like a really skinny case, and you would probably walk around with it like a dork with this big, huge, aluminum-looking plastic case. That was cumbersome, and I was doing that for a while. It was stupid. So now it's just basically just condensing it to this little handheld portfolio case. So basically, what I'm getting at is I'm trying to get into a graphic design position again after years of doing things I didn't like to do, and I think I have the skills. I've been working with Adobe Photoshop since 1996 is when I first started using Adobe products and started photo editing a little bit. And this is back before Photoshop had layers and masks. That's I don't know if people who know about Photoshop will understand that. I think it was version 3 I started on Windows, and I've always been Windows. I tried Mac. I don't like Mac. I don't know why, but I just like Windows better. I'm just more able to navigate in Windows. But yeah, I started in 1996 playing around with Photoshop, and I had some classes, but I'm primarily self-taught. So I've been using Photoshop ever since, and I'm not the most expert. I don't think anyone is, but it's a really good big learning curve in Photoshop. And with Photoshop there comes Illustrator for line art, and then InDesign for publication, design and layout. I don't do too much with I'd like to, but I don't have any reason to. I don't really put together any catalogs or folders or printed material with gutters and bleeds and stuff like that. So I would have to probably learn that a little bit more. But Illustrator I can use, and Photoshop is my main tool and toy. It always has been, and there's always something new I'm learning with Photoshop, and even with the newer editions. So anyways, let's get to the portfolio. This is my fancy frosted plexiglass Italian case, or portfolio case, and hopefully when I open it won't slip. I put tape underneath it. So I'm going to open it. This is what I did for the first page. Just assembly of my photo. I have a little home studio in the basement, and I was doing these postcards for a cancer charity thing for a gallery in Whiting. I think it was gallery 659, 652, I forget, but the portfolio of Christopher Trott, and just basically a collection of my photos. And yeah, so this is kind of my main page. And then you go into here's the stuff I used to do a while back in 2006, 2007. I was working with Intersites, and I got lucky. I was getting $20 an hour, and I was working from home, and he didn't 1099 me, so that was good. I was getting cash checks, So that was really good. And I was working from home, and he would call. I had to get a cell phone just for working, but and I was doing a pretty good job. I mean, it's just basically it was mostly the graphics were for web. Primarily my graphics are always for web, not for print. But later on, I decided to start designing stuff in 300 DPI, so I could have a print version. But back then, I was using 72 DPI for web, and these just it was a little annoying. Web banners you see all the time, and I think I did a pretty good job on some of these. Most are sport related. For this client of Intersites called Spike Football, he was selling all kinds of sports memorabilia, and I guess Manning. Some of these ads were actually shown on one of the websites that was like a local area news website in Indianapolis, but yeah, big deal. I mean, they're just web ads, but there's a lot of detail going on. The drop shadows, the gradients, the typography. In Boise State, there's a little gradient going on, and I try to dress these up really well. And I spend a lot of time on these silly web ads. I mean, I could probably pop them out now pretty quick. So that's my web ads. And then later on, this is more recent. This is I think it was a Chicago cop. I don't know. He came to my apartment, and I answered an ad on Craigslist. He needed a graphic designer he had a business idea where he said he would go to fairs and other places, and he would put his advertisements on specifically on garbage cans. I thought it was kind of stupid, but I didn't argue. His money was green, and I asked for maybe $50. He gave me $200. Fine. But yeah, I developed some little logos for him. I guess his advertisement agency, which never got off the ground anyways, was Advertise Frontline. I guess it's Frontline is kind of like a police type, maybe from his lexicon, a police type phrase or whatever. But I just developed these logos for him, with the little tagline, "So close it can't be missed," whatever. So he liked them, but I think he didn't really continue with his business, or so it went belly up or whatever. He lost interest. These are some earlier, just smaller, condensed screen interfaces that I did. I used to play around with little metal textures, and like for Element Graphics, it's a place in Mokina. He does vehicle wraps. Nice guy. I was playing around with filters at that point, like little, the drip filter, and I think it's called alien skin filters, and the flames. That's all. Everything was kind of 3D'd and stuff, and these other two. This is an insurance company in Florida. I don't know how he got my contact information. I used the same template. Well, it was like a CMS, a content management system, but back in the day, you would have to design all the buttons and everything individually. It was a real pain. Now I use WordPress, but yeah, like all this stuff, like this real estate company, I had to cut out the people from the background, and I used to use Adobe Photoshop Paths tool, which later I found out you could just use masks, and it makes it nice, way easier, and it's a non-destructive form of editing images. Put the balloon in, and little background, like a wash, like a little faded house in the background and stuff, and like Element Graphics is down here, drip, the drip. I don't know, I was going into a whole metal 3D type thing. Let me see this. This is my personal stuff I did recently. Just using the alien skin filters and layers and stuff. Drop shadows and textures and rust. I think there's a texture called rust or something, or metal. And just making it kind of look industrial. And the image in the center is just a picture I took in North Dakota of an old schoolhouse that was converted to a township hall. Very small structure. But, I kind of funkified it a little bit to put some clouds in the background different. And it's a lot of little things going on. I guess you would say you build a good graphic designer, or a graphic designer will build an image now, because you have to assemble it sometimes with different, images. It's a composite, basically. So just my playing around. Some more stuff. It's a panorama from the top one. Is the one I made pink is like a panorama from the VLA, which is a very large array. It's in New Mexico, and they watch the stars. Basically, it's a series of antennas, and they move them around every 3 months to get different studies of different sections of the heavens. The bottom one is "Junk is King." I think that's funny, but you know, I just the term I came up with. I have some spare time, so I come up with these silly taglines. "Junk is King." I don't know. I don't know where I came up with that one. I just pulled it off the top of my head. I suppose it goes back to, like, you know, in Hollywood, all the junky stuff seems to be the most popular. So that's why I say "Junk is King." And in the background is a car crusher or something, and someone is texting me. So, all right, turn that off. And yeah, so it's "Junk is King," and I thought it would be kind of funny to put little flowers in there and stuff. Whatever. So these are like just recent things. This is for my own hobby play. This truck is old, empty. Another composite, sky's replaced, colorized a little bit. Using masks now. That I do now, I use masks. I do it the right way now. When I do composites, I use masks instead of paths. But it's just a truck in Texas I liked. I like the shape of it. I like the burnt orange. Yeah, it's just a nice image that I kind of mocked up a little bit. I like to make things look surreal but not stupid. I know what that means, but I don't like the image looking grainy and really not good or burnt out in certain. I guess some people don't see that when they take photos or they look at graphics. They see they don't see the burnt out areas and stuff. And I do it too sometimes. I miss something, you know. But I took out a lot of the lampposts that were in the way in this picture. So yeah. What else? Chicago Skyway. And I said no one leaves without paying. It just goes back to how much I kind of dislike Chicago a little bit, because the leadership's kind of it's questionable. They're all in the take basically for anything. They'll sell anything. So for money, right? So I won't go into negativity on this one. Ground control. It's a composite image. Just basically, this is actually not my images. The streaks aren't my images. This one is, but these two are not. It's just a corn crib out in Utica at night, and I think it was a moonlit night, and I also had a flashlight, and it was a fisheye lens, and I kind of pointed the fisheye a little bit upward to give it a curve on the horizon, concave or convex curve, whatever, upward, and then I just basically masked the streaks. The streaks are actually from a rocket launch around Cape Canaveral, Florida, or wherever. And I mocked two of those together, and I think it's the same one. I just changed the shape on one of them. So that's ground control. I'm just going to go through a couple of these. This is one of my very first fairly decent long exposure photos. It's the Skyway Bridge. It's a 10-second exposure, not color corrected. It was an earlier camera. And I took this off the 100th Street Bridge on the east side. It's a drawbridge. The problem was when cars were hitting the bridge, it was vibrating a little bit, so I had to wait for cars not to hit or drive over the bridge. And it's a nice image. I like, and this goes to my rust and wreckage type thing, where I used to kind of sneak into factories, and if I saw something abandoned or I found out about something abandoned, I would sneak into the place and take photos. I guess they call it urban exploration now, but I don't know. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get in trouble for trespassing, so I don't do it anymore. I'm too old for that stuff. So, but this one I wasn't sneaking up on anything. I was just on the bridge, on the drawbridge. This is actually one of my very first successful long exposures. This was on the Jackson Street platform in Chicago, and it's just basically an L train going away from me, not coming towards me, but leaving. It's called Leaving Jackson, and I kind of modified this a little with vignettes and straightened it, and I think in Photoshop you can correct the barrel distortion on on the lens, so I did that, straightened out the girders and cropped out some of the parts I didn't need. And I think that's another thing too with photos, you have to know when to crop stuff out. I think it's the 1/3 rule. But yeah, and then of course when I was taking pictures with my tripod on the CTA, this was right after September 11th, 2 cops came up to me and wanted to know my ID and stuff, and I didn't give it to them. But yeah, long story, whatever. Everyone's paranoid when you have a camera, it seems. This one is just the action is the juice. Just I was starting to do splash photography. I have this thing called the Camera Axe. It's a device where you can put different sensors on it, and I put a laser sensor on for this one, where you would put the laser, point the laser over the object that you're trying to take a photo of, and they drop something through the laser, breaks the laser, and it triggers the shutter. Does it pretty reliably, so that's that one. And it's on, obviously it's in the basement on my small photo set, and I actually got this done pretty much in the first or second try because there's not a lot of splash on the surface, where the oranges and the glass is resting, so I didn't make quite a mess on this one. It's another composite. Just farmer's barn and out in the field with, just the skies replaced. I saturated it a little bit, and that's basically it. What else? This is just this was food coloring. I was playing around with food coloring on a white plexiglass surface, made kind of like a abstract flower. I don't know. I forget what those psychological tests are called. Rorschach, or I forget, but I don't know. It looks like a flower to me. So RGB, same image, just basically masked and repeated. I changed the saturation on it. Red, green, blue to obviously describe or illustrate red, green, and blue, the primary colors. My friend Old Empty, I really like this truck. I kind of personified him. It's like the burnt orange color. It's really cool, nice and warm. And then the blue sky, nice kind of combination. Although I could have maybe angled the camera differently to get rid of this glare, but it is what it is. I was still learning at the time. It was years ago, probably 2008. Separation, just another splash photo. Not that great. Okay, it's interesting. This one is Texas Stop. My friend Old Empty again. It's black and white. Sometimes I guess you got to know when to darken the photo, where you don't want to see features. You just want to see the shapes, and sometimes you want to lighten things a little bit. So I don't think I photoshopped this one too much. That's on Route 66 too, by the way. I think you're on the frontage road, which is Route 66. It's I-40. Santa Fe crosses. It was raining, so I took a 50mm prime lens, and it was just taking photos of items at various stores. These are ceramic crosses. I could have photoshopped out the little price tags, but I left it alone. And that's it. That's basically it. That's all my stuff here, so that's what it is. So hopefully I will get a job with the graphics company, or with a graphics company, sorry. I was closing my case. And I hope I didn't ramble too much. That's it.